Namaste, greetings and blessings, and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts. This is our Sunday message, and I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson, the founder and spiritual director of this center. And I invite you to watch not only this Sunday message, but any of our archived messages. I invite you to join any classes or events that we have going on. I invite you to reach out and email if you have any questions. Questions about this community, questions about me, questions about what we do, or questions about this science of mind and spirit, liberation theology that we practice and teach. And if by chance you find yourself seeking beloved community with other like-minded beings, even if you already belong, are a member of another community, church, or center, you are more than free to have multiple affiliations wherever you are fed and find community. You are invited. And lastly, feel free to click like, subscribe, and share this or any other message or announcements with others in your circle. And with that, much appreciation, love, and blessings. Enjoy the message. Namaste and greetings, and welcome to our continued discussion in April, fertilizing our future, visioning beyond the horizon. There is a passage in the Bible, Proverbs 29:18, where it says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish, but those that keepeth the law, happy are they." Take that in for a second, because to this point, how many of us in our general everyday lives have no vision, and in terms of keeping the law, keeping a mindful understanding of how the law of mind in action operates? Take that in for a moment. The spiritual laws and principles, how many of us are actively, consciously operating with them? How many of us have a vision, our own personal vision, and the vision of maybe the vision of our family, the vision of our spiritual community, the vision of our organization? Vision. And how many of us are using those spiritual laws in alignment with the vision to manifest the experience? Many of us are going around aimlessly without a compass, without a direction to how we are living our lives. And so this week, we are invited to identify, to recognize, to get clarity on whatever is the vision of our lives and to live it actively. And once again, not just the vision for our individual lives. What is the vision of the United States of America? What is the vision of the allied nations? What is the vision of a world that works for all? Various types of vision. In the same way that if I turn my head, what I see is different than if I turn my head this way. I'm in the same space, but I have a different line of sight to a different something. Both of them, all of them, exist in this space. So our individual vision, collective vision, global vision, centers vision, organizational vision can all exist in the same space of our consciousness if they are all aligned. So once again, we're invited to get very clear to recognize and identify what is our vision and how do we live it more actively. To see the horizon, we're going to talk about this because if we're talking about visioning beyond the horizon, to see beyond the horizon and to go beyond the beyond of how we are conditioned to think, to feel, and to live, we must act. In order to not only see, but to experience, we must act. Breathe. As we have been doing late, in order for us to have deeper realization and understanding, we're going to clarify some terms. Are you ready? So let's start with vision. We know this word means several different things. Take it in, because I'm not going to read all these to you. You're able to read for yourselves. But just take it in, the concept of how we use this word, the development of a plan, a goal for the future, for the present, beyond. And this one has a couple of them as a preposition, as an adverb, has a couple. But the idea is there is a point, and beyond is further than, the other side of whatever that point is. And the key thing is this one, beyond is often the idea of or the reference of something that is unknown, the mystery. Horizon. We grasp this concept. We understand it. But today we are being asked to get more conscious and more clear, right? As the synonyms at the bottom say, range of vision, field of view, one's perspective or perception. More on that in a moment. For an artist, we are trained to use our perspective and perception in the art. When an artist is using, whether it's 1-point or 2-point perspective, whether it's worm's eye view, street level view, bird's eye view, the concept in all of these is, what is the perception? Because this is all two-dimensional. But the moment perspective is brought into the image, it takes on a three-dimensional quality. This is how important it is to have a horizon line, a vanishing point, to understand that there is that which is beyond it, and to create the vision using perspective and perception to create the experience. It's no different. And this is why all of the things that I teach and talk about referencing that which is as the absolute has to be identifiable in the relative. So when we look at a photograph and we see the horizon line and we see the vanishing point where the two lines appear to converge and meet, knowing that they don't, but we perceive that they do, there is an element of our invitation going beyond that dot, going beyond what we perceive to be the end. It is easy to look around us right now in the world, in the United States of America, in education, in politics, in social justice, in all of these areas, and it's easy to only see what is right in front of us. And what is right in front of us is oppression and war and subjugation. And it's easy to believe that that is all there is because it's all that we see. It's easy to believe that a world that works for all, while a beautiful statement, is impossible to actually manifest. It's easy to believe that. But our invitation is to see, to visualize, to envision something beyond what is right in front of us. Just as beyond the horizon refers to the area that is not visible to the naked eye due to the curvature of the earth, essentially meaning that what lies past the point where the sky appears to meet the land, beyond the beyond refers to being in a continual state of open at the top and open at the bottom, ever evolving, existing in the liminal space of mystery, where all ideas, goals, dreams, magic, etc. come from. To vision beyond the horizon, beyond the beyond, is not simply to have a vision, to have a mission, to have purpose, and to have values, but it is to actively live them, to live our vision, to live our mission, to express our purpose in all of our behaviors and our values, to make it all visible as our life. As Thomas Edison once said, vision without execution is delusion. Execution meaning one's ability to carry out something or to put something into effect, to carry out a plan, to carry out a course of action, to implement, to fulfill, to attain. Vision without realization, vision without fulfillment is delusion. Vision without fulfillment is a demonstration of inaction. And to take no action, believing that this vision will manifest, truly is delusional. Sitting back and believing that by divine order, everything that is happening right now is perfect and that God has it is delusional. That is not the way divine order works. It is, however, the way apathy, it is the way that codependency, it is the way that laziness, procrastination, spiritual bypass, it is the way that all of those things happen. So once again, how clear are we of the vision, and how are we implementing said vision to make it manifest? Your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. Your clutter is a lagging measure of your cleaning habits. You get what you repeat. You get what you repeat. You get what, ha ha ha. Nothing changes until we change it. Relationships, nothing changes till we change it. Finances, the political system, nothing changes till we change it. We get what we repeat. So once again, the concept for this month is this idea of fertilizing, of nurturing, of sustaining. And it's real easy to have this idea that we are blooming and growing into. But for many of us, this concept is void of life, is void of color, is void of the vibrancy. We still have it, but we've allowed the life to drain out of it. And while as a photograph, this is a beautiful black and white photograph, but as a symbol of what could be, it represents, are we alive with, just like in The Wizard of Oz, prior to Oz, sepia. Once Dorothy opened the door, Technicolor. Are we living our lives? Are we expressing our vision in bold Technicolor tones and colors? Are we? Or are we allowing, whether we know it or not, are we allowing our limiting beliefs to drain our lives, to cause us to continue to get what we continue to do because we get what we repeat? Are we aware of what our limiting beliefs even are? Because we can't change what we can't acknowledge. So do we have the wherewithal to even acknowledge that there is something going on that we don't like? To then backtrack it to, so what's creating this? What actions are nurturing and supporting this? How am I fertilizing this thing that I don't want to grow? How am I fertilizing it to keep it growing? Trace it all the way back to the core consciousness, to the belief systems and all of that stuff, and then change in that space so that we change the outcome. See, it's easy to look at, I'm feeling scared, because that's what we see above the surface. But let's go beneath the surface and say, well, if I'm feeling scared, then there are certain beliefs that are nurturing and causing the feeling. I'm not worthy. I will fail. I am a failure, etc. There are beliefs beneath the surface that create the feelings and emotions that then come up as the words when I actually say to someone, you know, I don't feel like I'm good enough to do anything or ever be successful. And I feel like nobody loves me really because nobody really knows me. They know the me that they think they know, but they don't really know me because they don't really talk to me about me. So I verbalize it. But keep in mind that this is not where the mental equivalents end, because there is a fourth part to these things: our thoughts, our beliefs, the way that we communicate, the emotions and feelings. And as she says, remember, our actions are an outpicturing of our beliefs, our emotions and feelings. So if I feel scared, I'm going to act in a certain way based upon that feeling. And I feel what I feel because of what I think and believe. I say what I say based upon what I think and believe and what I feel. If we want a different outcome, we have to change the equation. If we look at our lives and we find brown dying leaves, such as those that are currently happening in the sunroom with my plants, if we don't like the dying and droopy and decaying plants of our lives, the blooms of our lives, the greenery of our lives, then we need to change something. Are we overwatering or underwatering? Too much sunlight, not enough sunlight, not enough rich soil. Something has to be happening, or the absence of what needs to happen, which is a happening in and of itself, that's causing this to be the experience. But if I just look at it like, oh man, my plants are dying and I do nothing. Oh man, my finances are dying. Oh man, I'm lonely and I have no relationships. Oh man, but I'm not going to look at the soil and the sunlight and the water and the potting and the roots, and I'm not looking at any of it. What am I actually doing? What are we actually doing when we simply sit back and complain about politics, but we do nothing? We don't write a letter to any politician. We don't attend any town meetings. We don't email anybody. We don't attend any protests, because, in New Thought, we don't do that, because we teach we don't do that. Anyhow, that's a different conversation. What does it do? What good does it do to simply sit back and rail at the machine without trying to undo the bolts of the machine? Without trying to reshape and evolve the machine, to repurpose the machine? Ever evolving consciousness says that we do not continue to do things the way we've always done it. There was a time that our primary mode of transportation was by foot and then by horse. And then that changed. And we put the horse or horses into an engine, and then we drove, or train, or plane, or boat. We traveled by various other ways as our consciousness shifted. Are we still shifting and evolving when it comes to this aspect of our lives? Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field frozen with snow. Thank you, Langston Hughes. Are we holding fast to our dreams and allowing our dreams to fly and allowing them to flourish and allowing them to bloom and grow and be experienced? When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid. The vision will pull. No matter if we feel afraid, we'll feel the fear and act upon the vision anyway, because that's how powerful the vision is. The vision we understand and recognize as this something that says, I must, just like the caterpillar that becomes the butterfly. It reaches a point where it's like, I must change. And even though the caterpillar may be like, I don't know what this feeling is, and I don't want to go to sleep, it does it anyway. Are we willing to do it anyway? Are we willing to have the courage and the conviction to manifest the vision? The only thing worse than being blind, as Helen Keller says, is having sight but no vision. The most pathetic person in the world is someone who has sight but no vision. Take that in. Because we have to ask ourselves moment by moment, daily, am I acting on my sight? I see great things happening in the world that are atrocities and horrendous, and while we don't believe in evil, I would call them evil. I see these things, yes. But are we only operating from what we see? Or are we leaning into the vision that says, yes, and this stuff can be healed and changed? The physician in the operating room, if they only operated based on what they saw, every person on the operating table would die. But they have a vision that they know what the body in perfect alignment and operational systematic ways of being, they understand and they act on that. So they suture the veins and the arteries and the muscles and tendons. They do what they need to do because they know that when these things are in order, they operate based on that order. That is the vision. I'm looking at what I see and it is not doing what it needs to do. And if I only operate based on what I see, then I'm going to keep getting what I'm getting. Could you hand me another toe tag? But if we act on our vision, we change our lives and we change the world. The negative use of the creative power of thought then is a very real thing and indeed is at the root of all our troubles. And while we persist in believing that evil is as real as good, we shall experience the evil in which we believe. Evil is not real in the way that some people believe it. It is not a separate entity roaming the world, causing havoc. But if we believe it and we act from it, then it's going to be as real as we believe it is. While we persist in thinking and acting as though limitation were the law of life, we shall continue to be in bondage because we're living and thinking as though we already are. To free ourselves from the contemplation of evil and bondage, projecting as it does the forms of lack, unhappiness, physical disease, etc., is the whole aim and purpose of the science of mind and spirit. Wait, what did he just say? To free ourselves from. That right there says this teaching, science of mind and spirit, is a liberation theology. The whole aim and purpose of the science of mind and spirit is to liberate ourselves from the contemplation of evil and bondage, which includes all of these things. To emancipate ourselves, to liberate ourselves. But if we're emancipating ourselves, liberating ourselves, what is helping us and causing us to break the chains? The vision. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, to the repetitions of this world, to the systems of this world, but be transformed by renewing your mental equivalence, not just your mind. Because a lot of people think, well, if I just change my thinking, I'll change my life. No, just changing your thinking by itself is not going to change your life. Changing your thinking and your words and your emotions and feelings and your actions, yes. But just your thinking, no. That's why many a New Year's resolution fails. Because we think a thing, but we don't speak it, feel it, and act upon it. So renew your entire mental equivalence and be transformed. The renewing of the mind is a scientific act. Note that word, scientific. As the conscious thought pours into the subjective channels of creative energy, the body is automatically renewed. This is mental healing. Mental healing is a conscious act as well as an established fact in the experience of many people. Instead of the old concepts of disease and failure, we are to inject those of liberty, freedom, health, harmony, and success. Do we have a vision of liberty, freedom, health, harmony, and success that we are acting upon, even in the face of the concepts of disease and failure? Is the vision for this other way of living, this other way of being, is this vision operating in our lives in such a profound way that we are able to navigate no matter what? Breathe. Oftentimes, people will refer to God's vision as the vision. It's God's vision. Yeah, but not the way we typically say it. So we're going to stop saying or stop referring to God's vision as being somehow anthropomorphized and separate from us. And the reason we're going to stop doing that is because God's vision is your vision. Take that in. There is no outside anthropomorphic God. So that which God is, as you, God's vision is your vision. Are you visioning your highest and best then? Because whatever you are visioning, the universe is visioning as well. There is no separation between it and you. So when we think of this idea of, once again, the fertilizer, the nurturing, all of that stuff, then we have to ask ourselves, then what are we enriching the soil for? The soil of our consciousness, the soil of life. What are we enriching it for? For what purpose? Because that goes into vision. We are enriching it for the purpose of, we enrich the soil of our consciousness in order to have our lives grow, have our lives develop, and have our lives bloom in the most life-affirming ways possible. We enrich the soil in order to provide a harvest of life that serves and benefits the collective community and the world. That's why we do what we do. To create a world that works for all, so that every iteration of expression of God gets to be its best expression. So how are we demonstrating our stewardship of our divinity, of our power, of our choices, of our habits, of our ways of being and doing? How are we expressing that stewardship? Are we stewarding such powers and ways of being like people who understand who and what we are? Or are we basing it on the standards of the lack, the scarcity, and the fear? The eye through which I see God is the same eye through which God sees me. My eye and God's eye are one eye, one seeing, one knowing, one love. You got that? One. How are we stewarding this awareness? How are we stewarding this awareness where we understand that this concept of a divine idea as a separate thing does not exist? The divine idea is the divine idea of your being, of your consciousness, of your way of showing up, not as an outside, what is God's will for my life? So when we are visioning and we say, what is Spirit's divine idea for this job or this relationship or whatever it is we're visioning for? What is Spirit's divine idea. No, 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 no. Stop right there, freeze and remix, because we're not doing that anymore. What we're going to do is, from what Meister Eckhart just said in the slide before, we understand that there's only one. So we are visioning from that oneness, which means, what is the highest vision or perfect idea that you have? Not spirit as a separate thing, but you as spirit, spirit as you. What is the highest vision or perfect idea that you have for whatever it is you are visioning regarding? And the reason for the remix, very simple. Because we understand, as Joel Goldsmith says, God expresses God. And that expression appears as you. So your highest vision is that expression of God. What is the divine idea that is expressing in you, through you, and as you for this thing that you are visioning? What qualities of the divine, of the universe, are expressing in, through, and as you in this vision? Not as a separate, but as all that you are right now, as a divine expression of the one. The life within you is God. And whatever is true of God is true of your life, since your life and the life of God are not two, but one. Your vision is God's vision. So when you are visioning, and we're not going to go through these, I invite you to screen capture or come back to this and actually go through the visioning process. Keep in mind that all of this, you are not asking for something outside of you to respond. You are asking the absolute that is you to express in, through, and as you. Your ideas, God's ideas. Your desires, God's desires. There's only one. So breathe. The more boundless your vision, the more real you are. Why? Because you are living the life that you have chosen to live in harmony and in alignment with oneness, with divine truth. And the more we do that, then the more real, the more in alignment with lowercase r real and capital R real, the more those are enmeshed in one reality, one experience, one life. The more real you become, the more real you are, the more real you get to be. Breathe. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to us as it is, infinite. If the doors of perception, remember we started with that idea of perception and perspective, if the doors of how we perceive things were cleansed, and we could see things as they really are, with truth, the divinity of, then we would recognize that all that is God, and therefore is the infinite in expression. Jean Houston offers us, just as you would not neglect seeds that you planted with hope that they will bear vegetables and fruit and flowers, so you must attend to nourish the garden of your becoming. If you're going to plant vegetables, fruits, and flowers, you want them to grow, you're going to tend to them. You're not going to neglect them. If you're going to do the same thing for that, then we must do the same thing for our own lives. Nourish your vision, nourish your life. Nourish the realness that you desire to express as. It is easy to believe that God is perfect. We must also believe that the spiritual human is perfect. And since it is difficult to believe that the objective human is perfect, we must confine our statements to a realization of the spiritual perfection of humans. We must remain faithful to this vision, for a realization of the presence of God is the secret power of our work. That which God is wholeness, perfection, and completeness itself. And what it is, we must be, because there is only what it is. So that wholeness, perfection, and completeness is also our wholeness, perfection, and completeness, which means I am whole, perfect, and complete, no matter what. No matter what diagnosis, no matter what's in my bank account, no matter what family does or does not speak to me, no matter what. No matter what I even believe about me, I am still whole, perfect, and complete. And that is the secret power of our work, to understand and know the presence that God is as us. Om Tat Sat, I am that which is. Are we doing our work? Are we practicing what we need to practice in order to embody that realization? The Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 offers us a way of catching the vision of our lives and using the divine wisdom we possess to take the teaching and practice and practice it in a way that heals and transforms our lives. Note the action stuff in there. The vision of our lives and using the divine wisdom that we possess, and thereby take the teaching and to practice it in a way that heals and transforms. And as we evolve, as we transform, so too does the collective. And when it doesn't appear to do so, we are called even more powerfully to embody the vision with such power that when we enter a room, we change the energy of that room just by being there. And when we add our voice to the room, radical awakening occurs. Our work, once the vision is known, is to do whatever is needed for that vision to manifest. And this liberation theology is the path by which we manifest the vision of love, community, oneness, and more. Breathe. This week's declaration, our affirmation, I will say it first, and if it resonates with you, I invite you to say it with me the second time around. I set my sights beyond the horizon, aligning my intentions with the vision I desire to experience. Together, I set my sights beyond the horizon, aligning my intentions with the vision I desire to experience. And so it is. This week's Thursday night study group questions are your own personal journal questions. Number 1, having done the visioning process, remember that slide I said either screen capture or revisit that. Having done the visioning process this week at least once, what came up for me? What were the answers to those questions? And how do I feel after having done it? Number 2, what is the vision that I have for the 6 areas of my life? Physical, emotional, mental, social, financial, spiritual. And what is my overall vision? What is the vision that I have for my physical body, my physical surroundings? What is the vision that I have for my emotional intelligence and well-being? My mental health and well-being, my social relationships? What is the vision that I have for these areas? And my overall vision? What is the most challenging thing for me when it comes to having and acting on my vision? Number 4, having looked at the Centers for Spiritual Living Global Vision statements, which I included the link for you to go find, what is mine to do regarding each of these statements? This is the global vision for Centers for Spiritual Living. If we are a part of this overall organization, then we buy into the vision, don't we? And if we buy into the vision, the same way I buy into my personal vision, there's something for me to do. What is there for me to do regarding the organizational vision? Breathe. As we enter into that space of infinite knowing, where we simply say, I am that which is, and I am ever becoming more real through this understanding of what God is as me. And through my realness, I show up in a different way. I show up more empowered, more authentic. I show up more real. That which I be impacts and influences that which I do. And through my doing, I transform my life and the lives of those around me. Individually, the ripples go out and change the collective. And I do this by being an active participant in life. I do not go into the closet and stick my fingers in the ears and simply la 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 la. I don't twiddle my metaphysical thumbs waiting for an anthropomorphic God to change stuff. If things are to change, they are to change by the body of God that is each one of us. Our hands, God's hands. Our hearts, God's hearts. Our head, our eyes, our mouths, our hands to sign all of this, God as us. So if there is a house to be built, we don't simply look to the heavens and say, build my house. We know that we must be the ones who gather the lumber, the nails, the tools, and we are the ones who measure twice, cut once. We are the ones who come together in community and build this structure for those to live within. We understand that universal principles operate the exact same way. So we hold the vision as the divine blueprint for the world that works for all, the life that works for us, the center that works for us, the country that works for, we get the idea and we act accordingly. Because we don't simply hold or have a vision. The vision has us. It is us. Just as I always say that we don't simply do prayer, but we are prayer. The way that we live, move, and have our beingness is prayer. So too is the divine expression of this vision. It shows up as us. The way that we live is the amen that we express. So knowing this, I stand back and marvel at the magnificent way that we as the collective, that we as the individual expressions of God gather and come together, doing the work that is ours to do, to change, transform, and heal, to create a world that works for all. And so it is. So it is. Namaste, blessings. I will see you at some point during the week at one of our gatherings. Other than that, I will see you next Sunday. Same bat time, same bat channel.